Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Taxi. Okay, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Welcome, folks. This is the More Money Show. This is Steve Moore, economist. We talk about finance. We talk about money. We talk about politics. So thank you for joining. By the way, we are live and in color, so we will be able to give you updates about what is going on around the world right now. And it is a bit of a tumultuous day with the American bombing of Iran, and we're just kind of learning all the details of that. So normally I start with a soliloquy about what's going on with the economy, but I want to get right down to it and give you all an update on everything that's going on in this military excursion. And so I couldn't think of anybody better to talk to. And by the way, you all know that I'm an economist. I'm a finance guy. I am not a foreign policy guy. I'm not a military guy. I don't know a lot about it. I bet a lot of my listeners know more about this issue than I do. But the person who I know who knows more than just about anybody about these kinds of issues is my friend Kevin Cramer. He is the Republican senator from North Dakota. He is also on the Armed Services Committee. He's been a longtime friend. So, Kevin, I know it's a crazy day, Senator. Thanks so much for joining.
Well, Steve, thanks for the opportunity to join you. And I'm always skeptical of anybody that diminishes their own credentials, because I feel like they're setting a trap for me. But I'm quite certain you cannot be a leading economist and not understand the importance of the geopolitical situation that we're facing right now. Because I do think, quite honestly, and I know we'll get to that, but when this all shakes out, Donald Trump will have shuffled the deck in many respects geopolitically, which will have serious opportunities, I believe, for an even faster growing economy worldwide. But that said, I don't think anybody woke up this morning shocked by the decision that the president made to finally launch an attack on Iran. He's had more patience than most people, and certainly more than most of our hawks, right? With regard to Iran, he demonstrated in Midnight Hammer that he wasn't going to tolerate their advancement of nuclear capabilities, and somehow they didn't get they didn't read between the lines that this guy's serious. And now, as he's called on them many times to come to the table, he's given them every opportunity. He's been gracious and even generous with the opportunities. Enough is enough, because Iran is they're not just sort of a third world country out there, in the Sahara Desert or somewhere in Africa. They're a very sophisticated, large country, about 90 million people, very sophisticated. 90 million, yep. Yep. Yeah, and the interesting thing about Iran, somebody asked me on the show yesterday, on the show with our friend Scott Hennon, which I know you're on his stations now, in North Dakota, asked about, they kind of created, they were angry, let's put it that way. And they were complaining a bit about Venezuela, they were complaining about Iran, very different situations. And I got to thinking about the similarities there. And the similarity is that there are still people alive who remember a better day. I think that's really relevant when you start differentiating between our frenemies, or between, Islamic Arab states and whatnot, and Southern Hemisphere states, that when you have freedom-loving people in a country is now being oppressed by a regime, they remember how good they had it. And that's what's going on here in many respects. In addition to Iran choosing to ignore our the civilized world's call for them to abandon their nuclear ambitions, they still have people in the country that want to see a different situation.
Okay, so Senator, let's bring everyone, our listeners, up to date. I was just watching CNN and Fox News before I came on the show to try to get the latest of what's going on. But let's just sort of start from the beginning. So there had been again, I'm someone who doesn't follow this issue that closely. So, but I understand that there were negotiations going on to try to get Iran to give up their nuclear ambitions and so on. And it sounds to me like those negotiations did not go well with the Iranians, and that Trump, as you just said, was fed up with the lack of progress. And so the bombing happened last night. And who was bombed? Give us kind of, for people who don't follow this that closely, what exactly happened last night? And also, were you, as members of the Congress, alerted to this?
I received, I was not, but members of Congress were the Gang of Eight, as they're called, of course, the leaders of the four leaders of the two chambers, as well as the leaders, Republican and Democratic, of the intelligence committees.
Okay. So Republicans and Democrats.
That's correct. Absolutely correct.
Yes.
And this is important because this is part of, our separation of powers and duties and all of those responsibilities that Marco Rubio, I believe, made a call to all of them. Talked to 7 of the 8, it's my understanding. So we were informed. Now, I've gotten a little bit of somewhat confidential. I don't want to say top secret because
of course.
I'm not in a setting to get that. But yes, everybody was well informed, but nobody's shocked because obviously the buildup was clear. That's all very public, particularly our Navy and all that. So that was all set to go. And it's always important, Steve, in these situations to acknowledge and emphasize that that Israel takes the lead in many of these situations. They have incredible intelligence. They have incredible air power. When we took out their nuclear capabilities in Operation Midnight Hammer, it was Israel in the 12-day war that cleared the path for us. So what this first level of attack is largely aimed at Iran's defensive capabilities, but also their offensive capabilities. So whether it's surface-to-surface missiles, which are really what they probably are best at, quite honestly, they have mid-range and short-range missile capabilities, but the mid-range is getting longer and longer all the time, so they can launch from Iran to, say, Israel and other military bases that are U.S. military bases, and Europe, and so eventually the United States. So, and by the way, with the full intention, that's the thing about Iran, the full intention of using them to wipe out the United States and Israel. And this is always important for those of us who maybe take a little more of a bit more of a populist view than others, than a hawkish view, that they really are an enemy that has proven time and time again their intention. And so this. Well,
I mean, I grew up in the era of the Iranian hostage situation back in 1979 and 1980, and so this has been going on for almost 50 years, basically, of Iran being an enemy combatant with the United States. So who did we bomb? What areas? The big issue, of course, is whether the Khomeini has been killed. I'm seeing all sorts of different reports, but what was the intention of these strategic and surgical strikes?
Yeah, sure. So the great point, because it's very relevant as you look at what will no doubt be a staged attack going at the various layers. One of the areas that was attacked was an effort, I think, to take out the leadership, and that it would be the complex where the Ayatollah lives. Now, given recent buildups, I got to believe that he's not foolish enough to sleep in his regular bedroom. But you never know. We have pretty exquisite intelligence from Iran, because there are a lot of Iranians who like to show that. But that was I think among the very first attacks was on that, and then on We've seen even some of the video already of some of the attacks on ground-to-ground missiles or surface-to-surface missiles, some of the most dangerous types. Of course, we haven't gotten them all because they've been launching all night long as well, making the mistake, I believe, of launches aimed at U.S.-friendly Arab nations who up until now, were sort of protecting themselves by staying somewhat out of this fight. But now Iran is actually drawing them in. If you see some of the statements coming out of UAE, Bahrain, even the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, these were countries. These are I call them our frenemies, Steve. But as I like to say about Donald Trump, he's not just a peacekeeper. He is making the United States a peacemaker, not just a peacekeeper. And I believe that this is going to crystallize that. And that's why I believe, frankly, that economics of all this, we're going to have a stronger trading relationship with Arab nations because it'll galvanize, who your friends are and who your enemies are. And Donald Trump started that, of course, with peaceful means in the Abraham Accords, while you were helping him and advising him. And now he has set that moral high ground and the relationship building that I think gets crystallized even more at a time like this.
So, Senator, when I called you this morning and asked if you could come on, you were so gracious. I said I'd like to keep you for 12 minutes, but is there any way I could keep you over for another segment? Because there's just so many questions I have to ask you. This is Senator Kevin Cramer from North Dakota. He's on the Armed Services Committee, knows better, can explain what's going on better than anyone I know. Is it okay if we hold you over?
I'm happy to do it.
Okay. Well, folks, this is the More Money Show. We're talking about what's going on in Iran and our strategic interests there. And we will be right back with the great senator from North Dakota. Welcome back, folks. This is the More Money Show, but we're not talking about money right now. We're talking about what's going on in Iran and the attack last night, and I'm talking to one of the guys who was, by the way, one of my best friends in Congress. And I don't usually like politicians, but I love Kevin Cramer. He's been a friend of mine for a long time, and he's one of the smartest guys I know, especially when it comes to national security. So, Senator, thanks again for hanging on with us. We've got to do a speed round, if I may, with you, because we only have about 5 minutes, but I have so much to ask you. So, question number one, how would you assess, based on what you know, and I know you can't divulge everything you know, do you believe that this strike was a success?
Well, whether it's successful or not will be determined by various outcomes. But from what I know right now, I believe it's hugely successful. First of all, the air defenses of Iran, which are pretty great, by the way, have not been successful in taking down any of our missiles that I know of. Obviously, the vast majority of them have gotten through. The newspapers in Israel are already reporting some leaked information about leaders being killed in action, and it's quite an.
And these are bad guys. These are bad guys we're taking out.
Super bad guys. And so that's important. I think it's already been successful in that, as I talked about earlier, you're already seeing other Arab nations sort of coming together against Iran because Iran has targeted them. I think in the early going, we're proving both our capability and as well as our will. And Steve, and I'm not trying to make news here, but I actually think this is not going to. I actually think this is not going to be as difficult as it's been projected by some people. And when I say difficult, I don't want to make it sound simple. It's not simple. But I think that we can be hugely successful much quicker than some people have anticipated. And I hope. And
what would that be? I mean, what kind of time frame do you think? How long will this last, do you think?
I would say, they're saying weeks, not days. Some are saying months, not weeks. I really do think that within a week, we're going to have a very clear picture of what's next. And then hopefully we can start this. The change of the country.
So the next, good. That's a great assessment. The next question is sort of what is our ultimate aim here? Is it for regime change? And is that possible? You mentioned the fact that there are 90 million people. That's a big country, Iran, 90 million people. Do they want freedom? Do they want to be liberated? I don't know that much about the geopolitics of this country, but it seems to me the best outcome is if they put in a new regime that's pro-democracy, pro-freedom, pro-economic development. Do you see that happening?
I do see that happening, Steve. And one of the keys, I think, in the short term here as to how successful we are in that, and it's not necessarily our stated goal to have a regime change, but we're going to have a regime change, or we're never going to be able to trust Iran and their capabilities, and we'll forever be at war. But the president wisely called on not just the people of Iran to step up, but the military itself, and realizing that there are two levels of military. There's the IRGC, the Iran Islamic Revolutionary Guard, and they're really the keepers of the religion, if you will. They're the theologists, and they protect that. The Artesh, that's the regular army. They're more responsible. They're conventional defenders, if you will, of Iranian borders and territory, things like that. If the Artesh turns on the regime, or better yet, the IRGC turns on the regime, I think that's when I think that regime change can come quickly, and clearly it'll be much more difficult for the regime to defend itself, if in fact they're even still alive. There's no evidence so far of any of them being alive.
And this regime has been killing thousands and thousands and thousands of their own citizens.
They've been killing tens of thousands of their own citizens in recent years, much like they were previously when Barack Obama promised help and didn't deliver it. They've come to sort of have a skepticism about American leadership until today, because they've been promised so many times that help was coming, and it's not our job necessarily to police the world. We all understand that and know that. But this is self-defense as much as it is anything, and a regime change would be most welcome, and I do believe that that's going to happen.
And the last question in our last 45 seconds is, will we be able to take out their nuclear capabilities?
Yes, we absolutely will. If we haven't already, we absolutely will.
Good. Well, Senator, I know it's an amazing day, and I appreciate so much you taking time. That's Kevin Cramer, the great senator from North Dakota. Folks, we're live. We're in color. That's why we're able to bring you this news and get this great analysis. And we will be right back. This is the More Money Show on stations all over the country.
Rural Americans deserve access to the best our nation has to offer, especially when it comes to healthcare. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families' health. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.